January 29th, 2022, 6:00 a.m. A blizzard is burying Canton, Massachusetts. Karen Reed is screaming in the snow, kneeling over the frozen blue body of her boyfriend, Officer John O'Keefe. To the responding officers, it's a tragic drunk driving accident. A taillight is broken. A hero is dead. Case closed. But as the snow melts, a terrifying question emerges. What if the people in the house behind them, the fellow officers, the elite, the blue bloods, were watching him die from the window? What if the broken glass was planted? This isn't just a trial, it's a war for the truth. Welcome to dossier number 20, the Canton cover-up.
This is a case that has just, it's shattered public trust in law enforcement out there. Maybe for good. We're not just looking at a simple investigation. It's a forensic anomaly. It's like a puzzle where they don't just not fit. It feels like they're from two completely different boxes.
Two different boxes, two realities. In one, a woman has too much to drink, gets behind the wheel, and runs over her boyfriend. It's tragic, but simple. In the other, a Boston cop is beaten to death inside a house full of other cops, and then the entire state machine works to cover it up. To figure out which one is real, we have to look at the raw data. We have to start with the timeline.
The timeline is everything. It's the absolute spine of this case. And for the prosecution, well, that spine is severely bent, Let's just focus on the critical window. Late on January 28th, going into the early morning of the 29th.
And we know the players. You've got Karen Reed, John O'Keefe, and then this group inside the Albert home on Fairview Road. The Canton gentry, as they've been called.
That's right. And the official story leans almost entirely on the testimony of two people, Jennifer and Matthew McCabe. They claim they saw Karen Reed's black SUV outside that house at about 12:15 a.m.
12:15. Okay, let's put a pin right there.
But after that, nothing. It's just radio silence. John O'Keefe isn't seen, he isn't heard from again until Karen Reed finds his body at 6:04 a.m.
And she's the one who calls 911.
She is. The first officers arrive on scene, Seraph and Mulaney, and the blizzard is just dumping snow. John isn't officially pronounced dead until almost 8 a.m. at the hospital.
So hold on. We have a nearly 6-hour gap. A Boston police officer is supposedly lying on a front lawn in a blizzard, dying, while a party is going on just feet away.
That is the official narrative. And just physically, that presents a huge problem. You hear hypothermia, you think it's a slow process. But the body was frozen solid. That takes time. And you're telling me nobody inside that house saw a 6'2", 200-pound man on their lawn when they left?
Or even just glanced out a window. I find that incredibly hard to believe, especially when the investigation seemed to kick into gear so fast.
Oh, it moved at lightning speed. By 9:08 a.m., they've got Karen Reed's blood. The toxicology comes back, and forensic experts later crunch the numbers. They say her BAC was somewhere between 0.13 and 0.29 at the time of the incident.
Which is the perfect headline, right? Drunk girlfriend kills cop. It's simple. It's clean. And boom, by February 2nd, she's charged with manslaughter and motor vehicle homicide. But if you look at the evidence, that clean story gets very, very messy.
Which brings us to the defense's theory. They don't pull any punches. They say he never even made it back to the car.
Right. They say he went inside that house.
He went inside, a fight broke out, he was beaten badly, and then he was dragged outside and left in the snow to die.
And if that's true, the car accident has to be a total fabrication, a frame job, and to fake a car accident, you need car parts. You need that taillight.
The magic fragments. This is where it all gets incredibly suspicious.
I call them magic because they don't seem to follow the normal laws of physics. Let's talk about how this evidence was found. Or not found. The state police bring in the CERT team?
The Special Emergency Response Team. And let's be clear, these are not just patrol officers. These are forensic specialists. They do grid searches. They are meticulous. They got to the scene around 5:33 p.m. that day.
And their method is intense, isn't it? We're talking shoulder-to-shoulder lines of officers, rakes, even leaf blowers to get the snow off the pavement. If a coin was on that lawn, they'd find it.
Exactly. And after all that high-intensity professional search, they found almost nothing. 2 tiny pieces of red plastic and 1 piece of clear plastic.
3 little pieces, that's it.
But then the story starts to change. Days later, Trooper Michael Proctor, who is the lead investigator on this case, he supposedly goes back on February 3rd and just finds more pieces. Then, the next day, the former Canton police chief, a guy named Kenneth Berkowitz, claims he found even more just while driving by.
Wait a second. A whole CERT team with leaf blowers can't find dozens of pieces of bright red plastic on white snow. But a guy just happens to spot them from his car days later. Come on.
It strains credulity, to put it mildly, but the actual physics of it is maybe even more damning. We're talking about the material itself, polycarbonate.
Yeah, this stuff isn't glass. It's tough.
It's an engineered plastic they use in taillights, specifically because it's so impact resistant. To shatter it into over 40 pieces, you need a massive high-velocity impact against something hard, something that doesn't give, like a steel pole or a concrete wall.
Not a person. A human body absorbs impact.
Precisely. The human body has give. If a car backs into a person at 24 miles an hour, the plastic might crack, sure, it could get a big dent. But it doesn't just explode into shrapnel.
It's a square peg, round hole problem. If the taillight shattered like that, John O'Keefe's body should have been, just destroyed. But we'll get to the injuries. I want to stick with the idea of manufactured evidence. Because if the taillight was the physical plant, then the phone data, that's the digital smirking gun.
Oh, this is the piece of evidence that I think really blew the case wide open for the public. We have to talk about Jennifer McCabe's Google search history.
The search term was "Has long to die in cold." Misspelled. HOS.
And the fight here isn't about the search itself, it's about the metadata. It's all about the timestamp. The defense's forensic expert analyzed the phone's wall files.
Wall files. Write-ahead logs. Explain that for us. Why is that a bigger deal than just, looking at the browser history?
Well, a browser history can be a bit misleading. It can show when a tab was maybe open or last refreshed. But a write-ahead log, that's a database file. It records the actual interaction when data was written to the phone's memory. It's a much deeper, more solid footprint, and that analysis placed the search at 2:27 a.m.
2:27 in the morning.
Hours before the body was found. Hours before Karen Reed was even awake and calling people for help.
Has long to die in cold. If that timestamp is real, the implication is just, it's horrifying. It means at 2:27 a.m., Jennifer McCabe was awake. It suggests she knew John was outside. It suggests the people in that house were literally Googling how long it would take for him to die while he was still out there.
The prosecution, obviously, they fought this hard. They said the 2:27 timestamp was just an artifact, that the tab was open in the background. They claimed the real search happened at 6:23 a.m. after they found the body.
The tab open theory. But that still doesn't explain the wall file, does it? The hard write to the database at 2:27.
It doesn't. And then, conveniently, Jennifer McCabe's story shifted. Days later, she suddenly remembered that Karen Reed had asked her to make that search. It felt like a retroactive fix, an attempt to explain away this really damning piece of digital evidence.
It feels just like the taillight pieces appearing when they need them to. But let's move from her phone to his, because John O'Keefe's movements were also being tracked.
The Apple Health data. This was another huge moment. John's iPhone was tracking his steps and, crucially, his elevation.
Right, the accelerometer and barometer. It knows if you're walking and it knows if you're going up or downstairs.
Exactly. And the data showed that between 12:21 and 12:24 a.m., his phone log movement consistent with climbing and then descending 3 flights of stairs.
3 flights of stairs. There are no stairs on the front lawn of 34 Fairview Road.
No. But there are stairs inside the house.
Yeah.
Stairs down to the basement. The prosecution tried to call them phantom steps, but the defense said it was proof. Proof he went inside that house. And if he went inside, the whole car accident theory it evaporates.
If he went inside, he wasn't hit by a car. He was hit by something or someone. Which brings us to the biological contradiction. The injuries themselves, they just didn't match a vehicle strike.
No, they really didn't. When you look at the biomechanics, if a 7,000-pound SUV hits a standing man at that speed, the bumper connects with the legs, the pelvis.
You'd expect to see broken femurs, a crushed pelvis, just massive bruising and trauma to the lower body.
He had none of that. His lower body was, relatively unharmed. All the significant trauma was to his head skull fractures and to his right arm.
And those arm injuries, they weren't scrapes from pavement, were they?
No. The autopsy photos showed these deep parallel scratches and puncture wounds on his right arm.
Parallel lines, punctures.
The defense brought in experts, forensic pathologists, animal attack specialists, and they all said the same thing. This is not road rash. These wounds are consistent with dog bites, canine teeth, and claws.
Chloe, the German Shepherd.
The Albert family owned a German Shepherd named Chloe. The defense theory became that during a fight inside the house, the dog attacked John. The spacing of the wounds, the pattern, it all matches the bite of a shepherd.
And closely, the dog was, rehomed pretty quickly after the incident?
Vanished from the story. It connects all the dots that the car theory can't. A fight inside explains the head trauma. The dog explains the arm wounds. The phone's stare data puts him inside the house.
Which begs the question, if the evidence for a fight was so strong, why weren't the police looking at the people inside that house? And that leads us to the man in charge, Trooper Michael Proctor.
And this is where it all collapses. The systemic collapse. The entire investigation was compromised from the very beginning because the lead investigator himself was compromised.
He wasn't exactly a neutral party here.
Not even close. He had personal, friendly relationships with the Albert family. He was friends with them. He'd been to their house for drinks. In any normal investigation, you'd recuse yourself immediately. He did the opposite. He took charge.
And his texts. The texts read in court about Karen Reed? I mean, they were just vile. It went way beyond unprofessional.
It was shocking. He's texting colleagues and friends, calling her a whack job, making disgusting jokes about her medical condition, about finding nude photos on her phone. He was dehumanizing her from day one.
This is the lead investigator. He'd already decided she was guilty before the scene was even cold. He was just looking for evidence to fit his story.
It's confirmation bias in the best case scenario, and outright corruption in the worst. He was texting the Alberts, who should have been prime suspects, giving them updates on the case against Karen. He was protecting the house.
And there were consequences for him eventually.
Eventually, yes. He was suspended. The State Oversight Board suspended his certification. His phone was seized, and it apparently contained what was called highly sensitive information. It just blew the lid off the integrity of the whole department.
So you have a biased investigator, evidence that defies physics, and a digital trail that points directly to a cover-up. It's really no surprise the first trial ended how it did.
The mistrial of 2024, yeah, that was a legal mess that people will be studying for years.
We should explain the secret verdict, because a mistrial makes it sound like the jury was just totally split. That's not what happened.
Not at all. The jury sent a note saying they were deadlocked, so the judge declared a mistrial. It was pretty standard. But the critical error was that she didn't poll the jury on each individual charge.
She didn't ask, okay, are you hung up on murder? Are you hung up on manslaughter? She just threw the whole thing out.
Right. And immediately after, jurors started contacting the defense lawyers. One after another, they all said the same thing.
They said, we found her not guilty.
They told the defense team that they were unanimous. 12-0. Not guilty of second-degree murder. Unanimous. Not guilty of leaving the scene. The only thing they were actually hung up on was the lesser charge of manslaughter.
So 12 citizens agreed she was not a murderer. But because a box wasn't checked on a form in open court legally, it was like it never happened.
It's a constitutional nightmare. Double jeopardy. The defense argued you can't be tried for the same crime twice, and the jury had made a decision on the murder charge.
Can you imagine just the psychological torment of knowing you were acquitted, but the system says you have to go through it all again?
It creates a huge legitimacy crisis for the courts.
Luckily, the second trial in June of 2025 was much more clear-cut.
It was. June 18, 2025, the verdict came in. Not guilty of murder. Not guilty of manslaughter. Not guilty of leaving the scene.
The jury saw the magic taillight pieces, they heard about the Google search, they looked at the dog bite evidence, and they rejected the state's entire narrative.
Completely. She got probation for a lesser DUI charge, so there was an acknowledgement she'd been drinking. But the idea that she was a killer was legally totally destroyed.
But it's not over. Now Karen Reed is on the offense.
That's right. The fight has moved to federal court. She's filed massive civil rights lawsuits against Proctor, the McCabe's, the Alberts, basically everyone involved.
And the burden of proof is different in civil court?
Very different. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's just preponderance of the evidence, 51%. And in a civil case, you can't just plead the fifth to avoid answering questions in a deposition. We are going to see a lot more come out.
The Canton gentry tried to close ranks, but instead, they may have just opened a dossier that could bring their whole world down.
The cost is already immense. A police officer is dead, his family is destroyed, Karen Reed's life is shattered. And the public's faith in the Massachusetts State Police, it's been gutted. Once people believe that evidence can be planted, that the badge can be used to protect friends instead of the truth, that trust is incredibly hard to get back.
It's a stark reminder that forensics, at the end of the day, is only as reliable as the people doing the collecting.
And when those people have a reason to lie, science just becomes another story.
In Canton, blood is thicker than water, but is it thicker than the law? Karen Reed is either a cold-blooded killer or the victim of the most sophisticated police cover-up in modern history. There is no middle ground. The dossier is open. You decide.